Yes!
This is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
Now, Ross Kaminsky.
Come on, man.
On Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW.
Producer Shannon just said we're up on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, type in Ross Kaminsky. You'll find me. He also said it's nothing special. Like, oh, what a great way to start the day. Your producer says, oh, you're up on YouTube. It's nothing
Producer
special.
Shannon.
Yes?
It is Paper Airplane Day.
Really? Did you ever try to make the paper airplane with the two wings on each side instead of the one wing on each side?
That's the only one I can make. It was kind of from the $6 Million Man.
Really?
I can't hold her. She's breaking up. She's breaking up.
Oh, my gosh. You should see if you can actually find that on YouTube somewhere and play it. I mean, if anybody can find it in 10 seconds, it's you. I don't have nearly as much to say about National Paper Airplane Day as I did yesterday about National Escargot Day. I should have had escargot for dinner last night. But anyway, it's already a weird morning. Can I just say that? It's already a weird... So first of all, if you're up now listening to me, you know, and there are people who actually wake up just a few minutes before the show and put the show on and start listening right at the beginning of the show and time their day to kind of start by listening to me, and I'm very grateful for that. But if you were up 40 minutes before that or an hour before that, you caught, if you looked to the, southwest from, you know, the Denver area. If you're one of my listeners in Alaska or something, then you would this part wouldn't apply to you. But you would have seen this year's only total lunar eclipse. And it was pretty cool. I did watch it. Tried to get a picture, but phone just couldn't do a good job with getting a picture. But it's just an amazing thing to watch. There's this big dead tree in our backyard. Well, not in our backyard. In the lot behind us that will soon, unfortunately, have a house built on it. But anyway, and there's a big owl that lives around, and he was sitting in that tree, and he's somewhere, I'd say, in the close to 2 feet tall. This guy's really, really big. I think it's a great horned owl. It's a spectacular thing. But he was looking roughly in that direction, and I was wondering if an owl notices a total lunar eclipse. I doubt it, but that would be kind of cool. I mean, they're supposed to be wise, right? And they got the big eyes, and they're looking at everything. So maybe he noticed. I mean, do you think an owl was thinking to himself, isn't that strange? There was a moon there like 40 minutes ago, and now it's gone. By the time the eclipse was ending and the shadow of the Earth would have been moving past the moon so that you'd catch sunlight on the moon in what to me would have looked like the lower left, whereas when the eclipse was starting, the remaining sun was upper right. But by the time the eclipse ended, some clouds had moved in, and I couldn't see the moon make its reappearance. But it was still really cool, and I hope you got a chance to see it. And if you didn't, I'm sure there's pictures and videos all over the place online. So, but that was, at least for Colorado, that was the only total lunar eclipse of 2021. So I'm glad that whoever timed all that timed it conveniently for me. You know, NASA or whoever's, timing these things and setting the dials. Maybe Isaac Newton, perhaps maybe Copernicus, Galileo, people like that. Thank you all for making this convenient for me. I appreciate it. Speaking of convenient for me, I'm slightly frustrated this morning. So, you might know, there's a McDonald's not too far from the radio station, and I frequently go, especially during the times of the year when the McDonald's app has a deal for a $1 breakfast sandwich, which has been the case for the entire month of May. So today happened to be an Egg McMuffin, but I often get the bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddle because it's a McGriddle, for crying out loud. And so I got over there to McDonald's today, and I was actually quite early getting out of my house, right? I left my house probably at least 10 minutes earlier than I usually do. And when I got to McDonald's, there were maybe 7 or 8 cars in the drive-thru. So I said, I'll just park. I'll just park and walk in and order that way. And I parked, and I walked in, and I stood there. And I stood there, and the lady saw me and ignored me. And I stood there, and I stood there, and I stood there. And and they completed the order of every car that was in the drive-through line before taking my order, which has never happened before. And it was about as close as I think I've ever cut it to not being to the show on time. Like I just sat down here behind the microphone ready to have my morning conversation with you like 30 seconds before we turned the microphones on. I mean, it was kind of ridiculous. Oh, that's a whole different one. So Shannon made a paper airplane. Look at that. All right, so that's interesting. It's very flat. It's almost got the look of kind of a stealth bomber sort of thing. So I was talking about one that's got more of a point on the end. How did you do that, Shannon? Like a point, like a classic looking, long pointy paper airplane, except two wings on each side instead of one. This is a whole different thing. This is very creative.
Steve Austin, astronaut, a man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man.
And that's what I based that airplane on. Well, when I learned how to make it as a kid, it was because of Steve Austin's airplane or spaceship that went down.
It was before. Better, stronger, faster.
We should probably keep some of that, like the better, stronger, faster in that music in our evergreen. Like, we'll find uses for it in the future. Oh, that's awesome. And then, of course, the Bionic Woman. I heard a comedian. I'm just doing random stuff here to start the show because I'm still all flustered from my McDonald's experience. I heard a comedian do a funny bit about Lee Majors, the actor who played the $6 Million Man, doing a commercial for a hearing aid, like a little bit later in life. And just, there were a lot of funny parts to the bit, but, we thought he had bionic hearing already. Like, why would you pick that dude? I mean, I get it. Maybe it's supposed to be like a bionic hearing aid. All right, let's see how your airplane flies, producer Shannon. I'm going to see if I can turn so that on YouTube, maybe people will see, how this thing flies. Oh, that actually was really good. That went in absolute straight line, high speed, smashed right into the wall behind me, just like one of the fighter jets in the novel that I'm reading right now, where we'll have the author Dale Brown on the show on Friday. So good job with that plane. Very, very well done. Okay, let me do something else random. It's that kind of... I have a whole bunch of stuff planned to speak about with you, and I'm not speaking about any of it right now because of the mood I'm in, which is not a bad mood. It's just a weird mood. Hang on, I need some iced tea. All right, that's better. So, as I was driving to the station this morning, listening to the radio a little bit, and I heard an ad on the radio that you all have probably heard many times if you listen to the radio. And it was an ad for Walmart trucking. And they're looking for truck drivers. And I listened, I've heard the ad many times before, but something about it really struck me today. It talks about the usual things that you would talk about if you were trying to hire somebody. It talks about how much money you can make, for example, and for truck drivers, talks about your equivalent dollars per mile that you can make, like the equivalent of 89 cents a mile or something, which actually sounds pretty good. Like if this job doesn't work out. And they talked about how they care about work-life balance and that you won't have to lift heavy freight yourself, right? So they bring forklifts to do all that. And you, as the truck driver, you're not managing the freight. And they make sure that you're home over the weekends to spend time with your family. But then here's the interesting part. I wish I had the ad. I don't know if you could find it, Shannon. I don't know if it's really available out there. But if you can, please do. Like I said, it's a drive for Walmart or something like that. But then they're talking about how if you drive for Walmart, you'll be part of a company and part of a team that is first to respond in emergencies, right? You know, there's a hurricane hits someplace in the southern United States, and you, as part of the Walmart team, get to go help, get to bring stuff that they need. And I noticed that. I like that. And again, in the language of the ad, I'll just try to describe it. I don't know if I'll get it exactly right, but maybe Shannon will be able to find it. I don't know if it's online anywhere. Might not be. But they say, you know, you want to work for a company that does that. You want to make a difference with the company that does that. And it really struck me, not because I want to go drive for Walmart necessarily, but because of the times we're in right now. And state after state, with Colorado being one of the recent ones, having to counteract this federal $300 a week incentive to remain unemployed, which is as insane a policy, at least in the world of economics, it is as insane a policy as I've ever seen. And I get it if you want to say the government is shutting things down, and in the middle of COVID, the federal government is going to offer this extra money. I don't love it, but I get it. I totally don't get when the federal government, after the massive rollout of vaccinations was already well underway, extended that $300 a week bonus to late August or September or something like that. I forget where the negotiation ended up, but still months from now, even though more than half the country is vaccinated already and much more than half the vulnerable population of the country is vaccinated already. And so now you've got the governor of Colorado, among other places, offering a cash bonus to go back to work. Like, if you go back to work before this Saturday and keep the job for 2 months, you'll get a $1,600 payment. If it's after this Saturday but before the end of June, you get a $1,200 payment. Incentives matter. But it's not just that. Back to the Walmart thing for a second. And part of a conversation we had with Megan Rose, this guest yesterday, did you hear her? She runs a nonprofit in Florida that for years and years and years has helped people get jobs. And they do these job fairs, and businesses are there, and people who want jobs are there, and they coach the people who want jobs, and they even do things for them like get them a haircut, get them some nice clothes to wear, teach them some things about how to make a good impression when you're applying for a job. And that's great stuff for a nonprofit to do. What a worthy endeavor that is. And she said that in their most recent set of job fairs, essentially nobody showed up as far as potential workers. The companies were there looking for jobs, but people didn't show up looking for jobs. And before doing the interview, I knew that she was going to say something like that. And playing devil's advocate, I was going to ask her, well, Joe Biden says that the reason people aren't going back to work isn't because of the $300 a week stay unemployed bonus, but rather because they're afraid of catching COVID or they can't get help taking care of their children. That's what I would have asked her, but I didn't ask her that because she said, without my asking her, that in the middle of COVID, months ago, before the $300 a week bonus to remain unemployed, they did a job fair, and these were the busiest job fairs they ever had. Way more people than usual showed up. So it was already a time when people would have been afraid of COVID. Right? It's already a time that if people had trouble getting childcare, they would have been having it then. Things are getting easier now. People are less afraid of COVID now. Places that can take care of your kids are reopening now. Schools are largely reopened now, and yet nobody's showing up for the job fairs. The only rational explanation that I can think of is that they're paying people. Now, again, bring it back to the Walmart ad. And you've got this tension here because on the one hand, you got the federal government paying people not to work. Now, these are mostly not people who are making the $89,500 a year that Walmart says their drivers could make. But still, think about what that ad said. That ad was saying out loud, like explicitly, I'm not reading between the lines, the words were, you want to work for a company that makes a difference. Right? Or you want to make a difference for this company. And what that Walmart trucking ad did was it explicitly played into what you and I know is a real thing. And that is that there is great satisfaction in most work. Even if it's not the funnest work in the world, there is dignity in work. There is satisfaction in work. There is whatever other kind of positive noun you want to apply to being part of a team or making a difference or earning your own way and not living off of other people's money. All these people who are making a decision, an intentional decision to not work because they're getting a $300 a week monthly bonus to stay unemployed, that $300 every single week is coming from their own children and my children's future earnings. It's really quite gross, and I feel kind of like the government is a drug dealer that is trying to get people hooked on this opiate of the masses, to coin a phrase, of free money and don't work. And I got to say, I really appreciated that Walmart ad for kind of explicitly saying that there is more to work than just the money. Yes, the money is important, but there is more to work than that. Unfortunately, the political leadership in our nation right now in Washington, D.C. doesn't understand that at all.
KHOW Denver, 630 KHOW. An iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeart radio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts.